Hello, 5th and 6th grade, and welcome to Lesson 4, Organism Interactions. Let's get started. So for your do now, what you're going to do is you're going to pause the video, take 5 minutes to write down your answer to the following question. If producers make their own food and consumers eat other organisms, what is a Venus flytrap? So take a minute, pause the video, come up with your answer, and comment it in the comment section below. So what are our goals for today's lesson? Our goal for today's lesson is that students will be able to identify how biotic and abiotic factors in an ecosystem impact one another. So what is an interaction? We talked about this a bit last lesson and we're going to focus on it again. An interaction is a behavior that causes something to affect something else. When biotic factors consume or use other biotic factors or abiotic factors, this is an interaction. An example of this is a plant using sunshine to produce nutrients through photosynthesis. So as we can see in the picture to the right, the plant is using abiotic factors such as the sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water to help do the process of photosynthesis and produce nutrients for itself. So abiotic versus biotic. All parts of an ecosystem work together. These parts can be living or non-living. Abiotic factors are non-living things within an ecosystem. This can include water, sunlight, dirt, and more. Biotic factors are living things within an ecosystem. This can include trees, birds, worms, people, and more. So what I want you to do is take a look at the picture to the right. List all of the visible biotic and abiotic factors that you notice. Now describe one type of interaction you observe in the picture. So turn to somebody around you, or even if you're just thinking to yourself, what do you see in this picture that is living? What do you see in this picture that is non-living? And how are they interacting? So in the photo, we can see many types of birds. We also see plants in the background. Those are examples of living things. And for non-living, we see some dirt in the background and water. How do these interact? So there are many different types of ecosystem interactions, but they can mainly be broken into two groups. All abiotic and biotic factors in an ecosystem interact. How do we describe these interactions? So competitive is when two biotic factors are competing for a resource. They are within a competitive relationship. An example of this can be predator and prey relationships, when one organism is being consumed by another. Another example of this is just two species are competing for the same resource, whether that's the same area of land, the same type of food, the same water. Dependent. Dependent is when two factors rely on one another. When both factors benefit from the interaction, it is known as a symbiotic relationship. For your check for understanding, I want you to observe the list of factors below and think about how they interact. The list includes the sun, which is a source of energy, a lion, which is a consumer, mushrooms, which are decomposers, zebra, which is another consumer, and grass, which is a producer. In the comment section, what I want you to do is arrange the factors in the ecosystem in order so they represent a food chain. Food chains start with the source of energy, then the producers, then the primary consumers, then secondary consumers, and then tertiary consumers. So it will go in the order that the animals are going from the smallest source usually to the biggest thing. So pause the video, take some time to comment in the comment section in the proper order, which order you think these would go in, and then come back to the video. How is this ecosystem impacted by abiotic factors? So when we've been talking about abiotic factors, we've been thinking of sunlight, the dirt, and water. Abiotic factors can have a stronger impact on an ecosystem than just providing nutrients or providing some space for organisms. Some abiotic factors, known as natural disasters, are as follows: flooding, volcanic ash, and droughts. How would these events impact the African grassland ecosystem we described in our check for understanding? How about a marine ecosystem? So, natural disasters are abiotic factors which cause a severe event that drastically impacts the ecosystems nearby. So, if we're thinking of what would happen if a grassland flooded, the grass and the trees would be submerged underwater and they may die. And some animals may not be able to swim or run to safety, and they would also die. If there was a volcanic eruption and there was an excess of volcanic ash, the amount of sunlight would be reduced, resulting in less growth of grass and trees. Organisms that feed on the grass and trees would have less to eat, resulting in a reduction of the number able to survive in the area. So if there's less food to eat, there will be less organisms which eat that food. And drought. The amount of growth of grass and trees will decrease, and with a prolonged drought, all plant life will die out. Without water, all other organisms, except those that are able to adapt to drought conditions, will either leave the area or die, because there would be no food and no water. If you have some time, take a moment, pause the video, and think about how each of these would impact a marine ecosystem. How do abiotic factors change their ecosystem? Populations, which we know are groups of a species, respond to factors in the abiotic and biotic environment that limit their size and growth. This can include space, nutrients, predators, water, sunlight, and pathogens. The limiting factor for a species in a habitat is the resource that is most difficult to obtain. Water would be the limiting factor for many plant species in the desert. Limiting factors can limit the population of each species living in an ecosystem. Carrying capacity is the number of organisms of a particular species or population that can survive with the amount of resources available in their specific ecosystem. Limiting factors determine the carrying capacity of a population. So to review our vocabulary from this lesson, carrying capacity is the number of organisms of a particular species or population that can survive with the amount of resources available. Interactions are a behavior that causes something to affect something else. A natural disaster is abiotic factors which cause a severe event that drastically impacts the ecosystems nearby. Limiting factors limit the population of each species living in an ecosystem. A producer is an organism that makes its own food, and a consumer is an organism that consumes producers or other consumers. For your exit ticket, I want you to take 3 minutes, pause the video, and comment an example of an ecosystem, one natural disaster, and how this natural disaster would impact this ecosystem. So pause the video and make sure you comment your answer in the comment section below. So for your homework, comment your answers for the Do Now, the Check for Understanding, and the Exit Ticket in the comment section by May 1st. Then you will watch Lesson 5, which is Relationships and Ecosystems. If you need extra help on the topics that we covered in this video, check out Ecological Carrying Capacity Biology by Moo Moo Math and Science. Have a good rest of your week.